In our first story, the opposition National Democratic Congress says it will not be intimidated by government in its bid to recapture power. General Secretary of the party, Johnson Esiedun Ketia, was speaking to NDC supporters after the party's chairman, Samuel Ofosu-Ampofo, was granted bail over recent kidnappings of girls. The NDC has accused government of using the security agencies to frustrate party members. Enes Beno now reports.
Well, good evening. Good evening, and thank you very much for your turn up to this CID headquarters this evening. Yeah, you all remember that there have been attempts by the government of Ghana to use the security services to intimidate us in NDC and frustrate our activities. So we got to a point where our Council of Elders had to come out to declare that enough was enough. And that, from that day going, we are not going to respond to any frivolous invitations by the police, and that if they found anything against us, they are free to take us to court. So eventually, we began seeing newspaper headlines that an arrest warrant has been issued by a court of competent jurisdiction against our chairman. So we, being a law-abiding political party, called the police to come and confirm whether indeed there is such an arrest warrant, because we cannot be relying on newspaper headlines. So we arranged and we met this afternoon. And indeed, they showed us the arrest warrant. And it was based on that arrest warrant that we reported to the CID headquarters. So they've asked all the questions they wanted answers for. They've searched the premises and residence of our national chairman. They've taken all his communication gadgets with the promise, and we've offered to give them the password because we don't have anything to hide. And so based on that, he's been granted bail. We've given them time to scan all the electronic gadgets, and if they are satisfied, they can now determine whether they have sufficient evidence to proceed further or to declare the case null and void. And so that is where we are now. He's been granted bail and we've executed the bail. So we are reporting here on Thursday, 2 p.m. Thank you very much, and may God bless our homeland, Ghana.
Thank you very much.
I want to urge all our party people to stay focused. We want to thank you for the massive solidarity shown this evening. But nobody should relent, because our national pledge and the national anthem urges every citizen to fight the oppressor's rule. We know the founding fathers of this country went through worse experiences than this. So if it is our time to bear the cross. We are ready to bear the cross. And let us assure everybody that nothing can break the resolve of a determined people. Yes. We are marching for victory, yes. No, with or without this intimidation. Yes. So this will not break us down. Tomorrow, we are back and we will continue the program for the celebration of our 27th anniversary. Thank you very much. Chairman,
we'll stay on politics, but this time we'll go to Parliament. And the Speaker of the Legislature, Professor Michael Quay, says the researchers at the University of Ghana who are seeking to incite the public against the legislature with their recent findings of a research on members of parliament should not be entertained. According to a survey released Monday, some 46.7% of respondents across the 275 constituencies in Ghana do not want their members of parliament retained. A similar quantum of the respondents also said they do not want the incumbent MPs to contest in the 2020 general elections.
This report and the subsequent discussions of them in the media leads me to think that it is time members got involved in how they are evaluated. And I'm proposing that, fortunately for us, this body is from a reputable institution where the Speaker used to be a professor, that we engage them, agree on what would be the parameters for evaluating members of parliament. When it comes to public discussion, the Speaker, you can't help it. What people will say sometimes has nothing to do with the report itself. But when an agency or a body from the University of Ghana takes on an assignment like this, I think it is incumbent upon us to assist them to be able to do it in a manner which will reflect the true role of a member of parliament.
He referred to the report. I'm holding with me here the Ghanaian Times newspaper of Tuesday, June 11, 2019. And it reads, approval ratings of MPs, 180 said to be voted out in 2020 election for non-performance. Mr. Speaker, that non-performing MPs, Mr. Speaker, without prejudice to their findings, we are not non-performing MPs. I am not, relative to Tamale South, and I can say so for many of my colleagues. Mr. Speaker, we are just about commencing processes within the two major political parties of MPP and NDC for primaries. This will be used as judgment against many. How unfair will that be? We are not.
I believe that we should understand these things because honorable members of parliament are representatives of the people so elected. To be touting that they are going to leave the house en masse because of what somebody else is saying is not fair to the institution of parliament or to the people's own representative power. In fact, it might tantamount to incitement, and it is not fair. We will say that the leadership should seriously, and the House Committee, contact those relevant persons and quickly make out certain areas for assessment with them, making them understand the true intent and purpose of the work of Parliament. We are ready to cooperate and in all these things, but the very areas of assessment must be clearly defined by the people.
Well, the Speaker continued, but also justifying his recent ruling that Boku member of, or Boku Central Member of Parliament, Mahama Yariga, could not be tried on days the House was sitting.
Like now, some are saying about our statement with regard to prosecution on days we are sitting. And in fact, in our statement here, we did say MPs are subject to the law. Those who are touting that they say they are above the law, they are not being fair. Because we said clearly only we still say that on Mondays and days we are not sitting and holidays, let our constitutional protection on the way to the House, coming House of Parliament, and so on and so forth. During sitting days, the Constitution itself says you cannot prevent him or her from doing that because of any questioning or trials or whatever.
Now let's take you to the Eastern region. And school authorities at the Bregor Senior High School say science education has ground to a halt 9 years after a contractor abandoned the rehabilitation of their laboratory block. The contractor, Mofek Company Ghana Limited, deserted the project after starting initial terrazzo works on the building. Already, we know that documents cited by JoyNews indicate that government had since made payments to the company. Kwitinate reports.
The school authorities tell me the contractor says the project has stalled because government hasn't paid for the work done. Same story is being told at the Bregor Senior High School in the Eastern region. In 2010, Mofek Company Limited was awarded a contract to rehabilitate the Science Resource Center of a Bregor Senior High School. The contract was expected to have been completed in 4 months. But 9 years after, all I see is a pale structure with no windows and doors. Headmaster of Bregor Senior High School, Daniel Mensah, reveals the contractor abandoned the site after starting initial terrazzo works on the building.
As we speak, it has been difficult to trace the contractor. He has never been back since he abandoned the project way back in 2010. And all attempts to get to him has proved futile. And indeed, since he has not resumed work, the project is at a standstill. My appeal to the government is that they should come and help us. It is very, very urgent to come and fix this project and ensure that it is actually completed to make the teaching and learning a very comfortable and attractive one.
The initial contract sum for the project was over 130,000 cedis. The regional AESL consultant, Frimpong Jemfi, told PIAC that government has paid the contractor 52,765 cedis. This was on April 9, 2013. But the project is abandoned. Now science students like Gabriel Ago have to bear the brunt.
That has become one of our major problems here in the school, and it's like we don't have the facility, but we have the equipment, which the equipment are being stored in a room. But supposing if we are to have the facility, it will be able to be equipped with the instrument. And now, because we don't have the facility and it's not being equipped, we are not able to have access to the equipment in order for us to be convenient with them. And out of that, because of this, now that we have, we are getting to our final exams to write, we are now thinking of how to even go about our practicals.
Well, this is from the main documentary, the Hotline documentary, as an excerpt, Leaking Oil. It was compiled by Kwitinate. But we have to take you for our last story from the Ashanti region. And the Komfo Anoche Teaching Hospital Blood Bank has often run out of blood due to inaccessibility of voluntary donors who make up about 80% of supply sources. Officials say the youth, especially in second cycle institutions, are major contributors of the life-saving commodity only when school is in session. Officials say the introduction of the double-track system for senior high schools seem to have given a boost to consistent and adequate blood mobilization and storage. Prince Apia has more in the following report.
The major challenge and concern for many blood banks in the country are frequent depletion of the blood due to few voluntary donors. So their go-to is the senior high schools, where the youth voluntarily donate blood. But when they vacate, the blood stock depletes. Blood donor recruitment officer at Komfo Anoche Teaching Hospital Blood Bank, Kwame Asensu Mensah, says The double-track system under the free SHS policy has come to save the situation.
You know, we take the chunk of our blood from students, those in secondary schools in particular. And because of the new system, which keeps the students in school almost all year round, we get them in school almost anytime we go over there. That has kept us sustain the supply of blood all through the year. In the past, we only had them when the schools were in session. But this, because of the new system, the double-track system, you almost find the students always in the school, and so we are getting blood from that major source almost throughout the year. So that has given us that regular and consistent supply. When people donate while in school, when they grow, they leave school, they either stop or they reduce the frequency with which they give blood. So the adult population doesn't give as much as the youth.
Mr. Sensu Mensah spoke at a blood donation exercise to mark the 63rd birthday of head pastor of the Calvary Charismatic Center in Kumasi. Pastor Ransford Obeng encouraged his congregation and other members of the church to donate voluntarily. On security measures to addressing the terror threats, Pastor Obeng wants churches to intensify prayers in addition to fiscal measures.
You should not allow this to deter you. It's infringement of our freedom of worship, and we will not allow those people to infringe on our freedom that we have to worship. So we will still continue to worship God. God is the one who protects people. The Bible says, except the Lord watches over the city, the watchman watcheth in vain. But that does not mean that you should not put in place or your human effort, what you can do. What I will ask Ghanaians is that let all pray for the security forces.
Prince Apia reporting.
And that's it for the latest news headlines. But we have more news as we look at what stories are on the front and back pages and, of course, the center spreads of the various newspapers we have in the studio. But consistently, we'll also tell you about which route to use when you're coming into the city for work or to conduct any other business. Stay with us. You're still watching the AM show live here on the channel, Joy News.